not married and they're doing this incredible?
Well, there's a myriad of things. So I think, first of all, we have to go back to writer. You are very well known for your teaching skills. Your students speak a whole lot about you. Miss Nigeria competition.
And I said, let's pick them up. Let's take them back to Nigeria and let's teach them a different kind of job.
The beauty of a woman, it is said, is not just what you perceive or what you see as you meet her the first time. It is what lies deep within inside. It is that inner strength, resilience of a woman. It is that creativity, the intelligence, ability to manage. That's what makes us real women. And here on The Woman on NTA, we have a lot of it all lined up. And today I have another exciting personality, a woman who's crossed, bonds and boundaries to get things done. A woman who is making Nigeria proud, not just in Nigeria, but far beyond in the US of A. A woman who in 2011 stood out with 12 other people as best scientists. A woman who is turning the world of biotechnology and a whole lot of things upside down. Who is my guest? That you will find out after this time out. Don't go away.
I don't think in gender boxes at all. I just get on with it.
A man that would dare to ask the wife, who do you think you are? That is a real man.
In fact, our husbands are our firstborns. The husband needs more attention than even the children.
It's not only about work, it's not only about family. They need to take the time to look after themselves, and we don't. We don't do that.
They took my money, I paid every fees. I never asked to be hoisted as a governor. I wanted to be allowed to go out there and contest for the position of governorship candidate first.
There's nothing greater than looking back and seeing that while you were aspiring, you were able to inspire others.
Power to women. Yes. We need to have more women, more multitaskers around Nigeria to get Nigeria working.
Definitely. It is The Woman, and I have seated with me our elegant, amiable, Amazonic Professor Diuto Esiobu. Nice to have you. How are you enjoying Nigeria? It's coming home for you, really. How are you enjoying it?
Quite a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Nigeria is wonderful.
When we had a chat, off camera, I asked you a question which I think I want to, reiterate here. What made you choose the sciences? I mean, you had opportunity of doing other things.
What made me choose science? I wanted to solve every problem in the world.
Oh.
Yes, when I was a child, I was 9 years old. When my father took me, that was just as the Nigerian Biafran War was ending. He took me out, and the ruins that war, civil war, left us all with. So he took me out, and it was a dark sky, but the stars were out. He said, "Look up." I looked up. He said, "You're a star. The stars never come down. So shine your light." And that's when he started calling me star. In fact, when I had my 50th birthday, my slogan was "Daddy's Star." He's no more. So my father inspired me to do science so that I can solve the problems that my people had after the war, the civil war of Nigeria.
That's a nice one. Look up the star. It reminds me of the story in the Bible of Abraham and the God, looking up the star and counting your stars. Okay, now it's enough for your father to simply inspire you. And a lot of times I've heard people who move out to study one thing intentionally and then they move on to another thing. But you persisted. And it wasn't just enough to study and come in and open one laboratory or the other. You went out to go into the research and as much as even go to teach other people. What's this propelling point for you in the sciences?
Several things. First was to solve the problems. The second was the more I did research, the more I found out that there was more to find out. The more I researched... I thought you were
supposed to provide answers.
Yes, and the answers keep coming as I searched. And there were many problems to solve. I'm not sure I could solve all. So I pursue research because it helps solve problems.
You're a lecturer as well, and that's University of Florida, right?
Florida Atlantic University,
okay.
Yes.
So I want to know, what is it like for you? You're very soft-spoken. How do you teach your students? Somebody once mentioned that you employ the multidisciplinary technology and skills towards your classroom. I don't know what that means. What's your relationship like with them?
Well, my students say, and they often, almost always say, that I'm very humble. I don't know how true that is. I am myself. I command the subject, and they recognize that I have the expertise. Once you know your material, you flow. So it's quite a fulfilling job. In fact, I end up being mother number 2 for many of them. That's another reason I went into working in the university. So I chose academia over industry because it let me produce more. I always said, what use is success without a successor? And the best way to build a successor is to be in academia and nurture them.
What would you say is one of our biggest, limiting factors, to us, claiming or attaining the heights the young people should be attaining in Nigeria? What's our big problem?
That's my passion. I've been nearly to all the 6 geopolitical parts of this country. And when I see the young people of Nigeria, they are full of zeal, full of passion, but they have very limited opportunities. I see myself as a farmer with grains, going round to feed the little eaglets that pick worms. They don't know they're eagles because they just pick worms with the chicks. As I go round and I find many young Nigerians, I feed them what I have. Many of them find strength in their wings to fly. Sometimes my grains are not enough. I've taken some of them over to the US. A good number of them are in our department. They have full scholarship, doing excellently well. But yet there are many more. They need good mentors. And they don't have them.
Mentorship.
Mentorship is quite lacking. And so sometimes I can't hold all of them. So mentoring, grooming, imparting, and teaching people to do what they would do well if you train them to. They don't have great mentors. There are wonderful professors in Nigeria, and actually I'm a child of Nigeria's academy. Opportunities are not there for them to practice. Some of those that I train at my workshops each time I come, it's their first time of seeing a good lab. I hired a couple of them from well-renowned universities, some of Nigeria's best, and they've never seen some of the basic equipment in biotechnology.
And they're students. They're students in the university.
No, these have graduated. I hired them.
No kidding.
Applied Biotech Nigeria, and they pick up fast like that. So Nigeria's biggest resource is the young people. They're vibrant, they're energetic, they are quick learning, and they are ready and zealous, ready to move. I can dare say that there is no center of biotechnology in the country where a young person is leading now that I didn't train. It is my biggest joy when I see them, the government agencies and universities, and that tells you how quickly they move. So that is Nigeria's biggest resource. If there is one thing I can say, invest in the youth.
Apart from the mentorship issue, what else do they have as a problem?
Opportunities. They don't have access. Like if they don't know anyone in authority, they don't find labs to do their IT. Or they end up going to places that are irrelevant or that don't pertain to the subject they studied. Another thing I think that impedes the youth is also funding. I spent like 3 months in Maiduguri and I was mentoring about 28 of them. They don't mind coming 7 days of the week, and we would be studying when everyone else is gone. We're researching, designing the experiments, but then when it came to time to do the work, they didn't have the funding. So we had to adapt and change it into what they could afford. I think that if Nigeria invests in its future, it would smile in the future.
It's a sad one, but I know that we'll get there one day.
Oh, I'm
Especially with people like you pushing out, our young people will definitely get there. Now, besides training young people in Nigeria, I know you've worked with a lot of presidency in the past. I know you worked with Clinton on establishing one or two things for them. Talk to us about it.
Well, the U.S. is a big place with very many big experts. So I'm like a tiny fish. But I started volunteering for the American Society for Microbiology in 1999. Then I became a member of the board of education of the American Society for Microbiology, which, by the way, is the largest bioscience entity on earth. About 40,000 membership. And they set the frontiers of curriculum and what ought to be in microbiology around the world. All the other agencies around the continents or related fields copy what that, very distinguished. So it was my high privilege indeed, an honor to serve on that board. So I opened my email one day and I see a note from the presidency. It was George Bush at the time, and they want to know if I'll be willing to serve on the president's committee to select for the best, for the award. They call it a President's Award for Excellence in Science and Math. So I wondered where they found my name from, and a weird sounding name, you can say. and so that was the first leg I had into helping to advise the presidency in the excellence in science and math. So of course I hit the reply button without blinking. I didn't even breathe. And I said, where did they find my name? And I started wondering. Much later I found out that it was my colleagues at the ASM who had recommended that I would be a good member there.
Okay.
So I served Judge Bush in that capacity. And then under Hillary Clinton, it was the National Academy of Science. They have what they call the Jefferson Science Fellows, where they look for scientists who can interpret science, who can break it down to a regular person's language, and who can help inform policy. So that was actually the highlight of my career. I think it still stands as one of my highest service in the U.S. I had to write England as Hillary Clinton. I replied some of the letters in her name, and I would sign, Dear Judge, Hillary.
That's interesting. Okay, we'll get to talk about my guests. She has a whole lot about her.
I don't think in gender boxes at all. I just get on with it.
A man that would dare to ask the wife, who do you think you are? That is a real man.
In fact, our husbands are our firstborns. The husband needs more attention than even the children.
It's not only about work, it's not only about family. They need to take the time to look after themselves, and we don't. We don't do that.
They took my money. I paid every fees. I never asked to be hoisted as a governor. I wanted to be allowed to go out there and contest for the position of governorship candidate first.
There's nothing greater than looking back and seeing that while you were aspiring, you were able to inspire others.
Power to women.
Yes.
We need to have more women, more multitaskers around Nigeria to get Nigeria working.
Definitely. The show is still on, and it is the woman. I still have the professor seated with me. Prof, let me drop the prof and call you mommy. Because I know this time I want to talk about you as the mother of 4 lovely children doing very well. I was very inspired when I read the story of your son, Chuka. You know, at the point he was graduating from the high school, he gathered all the honors. What happened? How did you make it? You know, this boy was given, admission to study in the best 11 universities in the U.S. What magic did you pull?
I think, and Chuka not alone, he has siblings ahead of him. Chuka is my last child, and everyone likes to talk about Chuka. He has siblings ahead of him who showed him the way. David, my oldest, Kemka, and Victoria, and then Chuka. Actually, Kemka was so good. She had perfect scores in SAT and also was admitted to several schools. But Chuka had this special touch with people. That's what endeared him to all. So in high school, he was the captain for basketball, so he had many friends. Chuka would stay back in school to coach his friends, and they did a lot of things together outside school and in school. He knew how to manage his time, and when it came to the exams, he became the valedictorian. He spent his valedictorian speech recognizing his peers. He has finished from Harvard with honors. He read neurobiology and economics.
You mentioned basketball. I recall a conversation you had with him when he used to come home and say, "Mommy, I can't run."
Oh, Mommy, I cannot run.
So how did he end up being a captain when at a point he couldn't run?
Chuka was born with sickle cell anemia. He had the SS gene. And in fact, on the 10th anniversary of his treatment, the therapy that cured him, he told me, "Mommy, I would like to spend that anniversary in Nigeria." And he came home. He wanted many more kids rescued. So when Chuka was 4, he could not even run. When his friends would run and he tries, he just liked life, but he couldn't live it. And he'll come back with his big eyes and he'll roll and say, "Mommy, I came last again." You know, when they run in school, then his teacher knew, in kindergarten, they'll make him sit or sleep. And until he got his therapy, and at the University of Miami Teaching Hospital, he had a stem cell therapy, and it worked very well. Today, Chuka is AA. From that hour to now, Chuka is he's 20-something, his early 20s.
It changed completely.
Completely. He's been AA since then, never had a headache. So from age 4. So when he was in high school, he was as strong as can be. Science does work. When they were contemplating the stem cell therapy, because he was the first in Florida to have that successfully done, they said, "Scientist mom experiments with child." But we had prayed. We knew there were not very many options. So we went in and got it done. And God blessed it. And,
now, I'm wondering, did you go to study sciences because of your son? Or I don't know how to, figure this out. Because I know that for an SS to come, the parents must have been AS or something like that. So I knew you were educated. So what happened?
Everyone asked me that question, and that's my discipline. So why do I not know? It didn't cross my mind that I was AS. In fact, my test done in Nigeria when I was younger had me as AA. I had to change school. In Nigeria, when I was much smaller. So my parents moved me from my first secondary school to the other because I used to have a lot of malaria. And so when they went for tests and they said, "Oh, she is AA, that's why AA people always get malaria." And so that stuck in my head. And when I married my husband, we didn't go to check whether he was AS or not. Because number one, it wasn't in my mind anyway. And I wonder if it would have stopped me from marrying him. I think I would have still married my sweetheart. Maybe God just blinded my eyes so I could marry my husband. And so we got married and had our first 2 children, and they were very well. No one ever did a test. And it was the last 2 who got the bad genes. God rescued us. Both of them are cured. We're the only family in the world whose 2 siblings are cured of sickle cell anemia.
That's beautiful to know. Now, your job, it's very demanding. And I'm wondering, you had time to pay attention to your children. How are you able to manage the home front and do your job to such excellence?
I'm going to talk a little bit more about my sickle cell children and then link it to managing the home and my career.
Okay.
I never lose sight of the fact that I was lucky, blessed, and that it was for a purpose and reason that 2 children of mine were rescued from an illness that otherwise is debilitating. One of the worst illnesses in hematology. So we spend time, we invest to help encourage other mothers. And I want to say, if there is a mother watching this who has a child who's ill, I want to encourage you to give your best love and cherish every moment. There will be a way out, and never give up hope. That helps you manage every day. There is nothing as painful to a mother as watching a child and you know you're helpless. The child is in pain. Sometimes you want to take that pain from the child and you can't. And the baby just cries. And I tell you, it was one of the most challenging times of my life. But I noted that if I just accepted defeat and sat there, the child, myself, and the whole family, it affected the family truly. But we found a way. Sometimes we had some people's birthday celebration in the hospitals when they were on admission, and we invited other kids who were ill. So make the most of every opportunity you have and try to make it good. I made them all become my research assistants. Yes.
Were you paying them?
No, but they, I think, reaped the fruit. By age 5, Chuka wrote book reports. Kemka would write book reports and several. In fact, in one vacation, Chuka read 15 books, like when we drive or travel. So and when I'm going to the lab or I have work to do, I assign them what to do. So if I had journals I wanted to review, they helped me find it. And when they finish on our way home, we'd drive in and buy their favorite food or something. So I never left them alone, and it paid off. When they were in school, in high school, and it was time to write book reports, they could do it like that. They could do science projects and write reports in a blink. So they didn't need that extra coaching. So they helped me and helped themselves. That's how I managed it.
It's beautiful. It's
and
beautiful.
I must not fail to mention that they have a wonderful father, my husband, and of 33 years. And so we built it all together. He was very supportive. When I couldn't cook, he cooked. When it was my turn, I cooked. And so together we all did it.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to give a shout out to him?
Oh, hi, love you.
All right. No, I know that I can't leave without asking you this question. But talk to me, what are you doing really beyond just the training you had in Maiduguri?
Yes, so since the year 2006, I've been coming regularly to Nigeria, and at the invitation of the federal government, I established the Applied Biotech International Nigeria Limited, where we have helped to train very many people and are continuing to. Our ultimate goal really is to power the bioeconomy for Nigeria. Everyone agrees that the foreseeable future will be driven, the economy of nations in the foreseeable future will be driven by biotechnology and the bioeconomy. And Nigeria has not even crafted its own blueprint or strategic plan. So that's part of what we're doing. At Applied Biotech, we have a rental lab where people can come in our lab to design experiments and do their research. We have mobile labs that we use to go around the country to train folks and empower them. We do research as well, mobile lab training, and R&D development products and so on. We help to incubate bioenterprises.
You know, that's when you speak, I was just imagining things. Nigerians were very creative, and we go back to our roots a whole lot of time, creating a whole lot of things. I see organic things, you know, on sale now. I'm hoping that one day we'll have it all coming up from your source in a better, you know, refined and research things. Thank you so much.
That is the goal. Thank
That's
you
the goal,
very
right?
much. That's the goal, really. Yes.
What would you want, you know, to give as an advice to women who are, you know, desiring to get the best out of your career, but one thing or the other, it's, you know, stalling them. You had your challenges, but you surmounted them and got to where you are today. What is your advice to such women?
Well, I don't think that there's going to be one advice that fits all, but there are a few things I learned in my life that if you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you have to work to keep the silver spoon in your mouth, otherwise it will drop. Many others are born without the silver spoon, so you have to find it and stick it in your mouth. So life is a journey, and it doesn't matter where you find yourself, you make the most of it. Now, when you're a woman, you're disadvantaged for just being a woman. Then you're a mother. you're saddled with having babies and your morphology changes, your shape. I call it morphology. We talk about morphology in microbiology. But anyway, so all of that comes in, and then you have to raise your children from scratch, and you've got those aspirations. Keep your eye on the goal, setting your priorities right and carefully choosing them in wisdom is the next important thing to succeed. And when you have obstacles on the way, never give up. I pray a lot. That helps me.
It's good. It's good. I mean, what are we without God? It's the author and the finisher. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I feel like I should just sit down and keep listening. And I think I'll just go with what you've always said. What is success without a successor? I love that bit. Yes, and I'm queuing into that. So whatever we do, let's always think about the legacy we leave behind. That's the success and the successor she's talking about. If you reap it all now and you have nothing, left behind for other people and people to actually cheer you, I mean, the game is really over before you even started. All right, we'll be with you again next week, and we've had a wonderful time with Professor Diuto Esiobu. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll see you again next week. I remain Elizabeth. Be good.
Well, there's a myriad of things. I think, first of all, we have to go back to a writer. You are very well known for your teaching skills. Your students speak a whole lot about you.
Miss Nigeria competition.
I said, let's pick them up, let's take them back to Nigeria, and let's teach them a different kind of job.